Great. It's been tough. It's been hard. It's been stressful. But, I think that's something that's missing in specifically the adolescent recovery community is like this final step of support when they have to go home. Because that's like the hardest thing you could possibly do is go back home.
All right. Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an addict alcoholic. This is episode 59 with my boy Trey. Super grateful to be here.
Welcome back. I'm Andrew. I'm an addict alcoholic out here in Boston. Really excited to have Trey back on the pod. I think besides Steve-O, our editor, he's one of the only returning guests. Really psyched to have you back, man, and excited for this episode.
Epic. Happy to be here.
Super excited. Yeah. We've honestly when we first met was on Zoom. That was that first episode that we did.
Yep.
And then we've become boys since then, which has been amazing. And I just love getting to know you more and like learning from you and going to the gym, getting after it.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be dope to bring you in today into the studio and kind of chop it up because we heard a little bit about your story the first time. And I think this time we'll hear a little bit about that too, and as well as like get into recovery because everyone here works in recovery. And you're doing it a little bit differently than we do. So could you tell us a little bit about R.O.D Coaching a little bit?
Yeah. So when I was in sober living, so I did wilderness when I was 21, and then when I was in sober living, it was maybe 2 months before I left. And I think the way I remember, I was sitting at the barber shop, and there was like a newspaper, which I never read, but I picked it up, and there was this ad in there that was like local group home looking for someone to do activities with the boys. And at that time I was working at Zoomies, and I was like, what? Like, yeah, sign me up. So I called the dude, he hires me, and I ended up mentoring this group home of like 8 to 10 boys, and just completely restructured their home. They were doing no activities, no nothing. I just like got them all skateboards. We're going to the park these days. We're going skiing. We're going to the lakes. We, added all these activities, and it really made a big difference in these kids' lives. And it showed me, that there was more to my story, and like what I just was going through and what I just went through was like more powerful than I could have noticed, and I was like, okay, this is something that I really enjoy. The kids seemed to resonate with it. And so then I worked for a couple adolescent treatment centers after that. And when I moved out to LA, a lot of the kids that were like, we all see it when they're graduating treatment, they're like in the best place. They're doing so well. They're into these new hobbies. They're winning. They got a year, and then they go back home and they all, one by one, boom, they're slipping. And something I did when I was working at these treatment centers, when parents would come for family weeks, I like always hung out with the parents, like got to know them. And so these parents started reaching out to me, and they're like, we don't know what to do. So I started flying to where these kids were and spending like a week or 2 weeks with them to just reset, see what was going on. At this point, I had like no real connections in the industry. It was just like, let me see what's up with your kid. He trusts me, and let's figure out a plan and make it happen. And so then after I did that a couple of times, I was like, okay, there really needs to be like this final level of support for these kids when they leave, right? Like even just sober livings, there's no real sober livings for teens. There's ILP, and they go back home, right, after residential. And so I decided to start this company, R.O.D Coaching, which is all about aftercare recovery coaching. And so it started with just teens, but now we work with adults too. How can we help these kids land in a productive way with similar structure to that treatment, working with the family as a whole to set the house up, to make sure that they have structure, that they have a routine, that they're comfortable going to the spaces to go do the things that they love, to help them, not only see the value in recovery, but the fun in it and sustain it, right? Because we all need structure, we all need routines, and we all need the things we love to do. And if we don't have those, or we're not willing to pursue them, things go south real quickly, right? And so that was like the foundation of why I started the company. Now it's grown into other areas where we have guys that I call them prehab. Mom and dad don't know. Hey, are we jumping the gun? Like, is things as bad as it seems? Maybe they feel like they're overreacting. Let me come in and spend some time with your kid and assess the situation. And more times than not, it's like, yeah, he needs to get out of the house. And sometimes it's like, no, your kid just like made a bad decision, and we can work with this and course correct. But yeah, it's been great. It's been tough. It's been hard. It's been stressful. But, I think that's something that's missing in specifically the adolescent recovery community is like this final step of support when they have to go home. Because that's like the hardest thing you could possibly do is go back home, after treatment. I'm so grateful I didn't.
Yeah, me too.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like, I think it would be beneficial to everyone, not probably especially adolescent, definitely, but anybody going from like inpatient to outpatient to, they talk a lot about sober livings and then back home. If you can't change, the people, places, and things that were in place before, someone like you and someone like in a program like yours is like extremely beneficial, I think, to like kind of ease back in and, got that little like maybe like extra level of guidance, to their life.
And just like someone to like help you, someone like I just signed a 29-year-old, right, who's in sober living. He's got some sober time. He's pretty solid. But what we're shifting on is more of like the life side of things, right? I think sometimes you get, and often at sober livings, and even mine, it was like recovery, sober time, sponsor, meetings. But I was working at Zoomies. No, like, I was so lucky I found that one job, but there was no like coaching around like, what do you actually want to do? Like what's going to what lights you up? What are you passionate about? Because that's like, I think super important that you have that. It gives you purpose for like everything you're doing. And when you start, for me, when I started making wins in pursuit of what I was passionate about, it's an extra layer of accountability to like stay on top of my shit, to keep working my program. Cause it's like, oh my God, things are working. And I would be ignorant to think it didn't have anything to do with being sober now and in recovery. Right. And so like with this guy that I just signed, it's like, okay, what do you love? That was like our whole intake session yesterday. I was like, what do you love, dude? And he loves music and he loves music industry and, but he's just been sitting at the house, going to his meetings, going to ROP, but he's just like, dude, I'm losing it, right? He's starting to be at more risk of relapse just because he's not pursuing something that he loves. And so that'll be my approach with him is like, let's go. We need to let's go get some interviews. Let's go like, look at other areas of life than just recovery. Yeah. Because it all comes together.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's like all part of the program in terms of program building. We were doing a goodbye ceremony yesterday at one of the houses I work at, and one of our therapists said like, and I really liked how she said it, but she was like, now you're the program director, of your life. This guy also that's leaving is interested in music. And it was kind of like, take everything that you've learned from inpatient here, and when you leave, it's up to you now really to put that into place and to build your program. And I agree with you completely too on like, if you don't have a passion, if your whole life is just like recovery. I mean, for me, recovery and working in recovery is my passion, but for others, like it's just important to have something that you love to do next to like your recovery, just because I think it can become either too much or like I think you just have to be doing what you love to do. If you're bored, like idle hands, and you're just like hanging out, working at like Zoomies and stuff like that, like, or whatever you're doing. That's how I felt when I was just doing like swim lessons for like 2 years straight, like it was nice, but at the same time I was like, I'm supposed to be doing something other than this. You know what I mean? And that bothered me daily. Definitely.
Yeah, man. And I love what you do. I do similar work at a treatment center out here called Hair and Wellness. I'm a recovery coach, aftercare mostly. When they leave or when they're in the sober house or when they leave the sober house. And I had that when I left, right? And I can say like confidently like if I didn't have that when I left, like it's almost like you said, I would have gone to meetings, probably would have gotten a sponsor, you know, maybe made it a little while, but I needed somebody like, because I lived in such like opposition to like my passions for so long. Like my passion was drugs and alcohol. Like that replaced all of my actual passions. So I needed somebody to help me relearn like what I loved. And I didn't, and I couldn't do that for myself. And I just love how you say that. Like, let's find out what lights you up. Like I didn't have any idea anymore. Like I had things that I used to do. Like I used to be an athlete, and I used to go to school, and I used to like, to write, and I used to like to be like doing conservation work or whatever. But like all that stuff just got replaced. And I had no idea like how I looked at it, and I was just like so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, how am I gonna? It would be so much easier for me to just like take like a little like a minimum wage job and just kind of grind it out and just probably slowly get back into a mind state of active addiction and wanting to do drugs again. And I needed somebody to almost like kick my ass every day. Like, yo, like we got to figure out something that you like to do, and you got to do it. Like you need to challenge yourself every day. And because I wasn't going to do that. Like I think it's hard because I thought it was hard to stay sober in treatment, but staying sober in treatment and like that life is like after a while it's pretty easy. Like you're in treatment, like you're busy all day. You're exhausted at the end of the day. Like there's no room for me to like want to use. Like there's no room for me to get into that headspace cuz I'm group, gym, dinner, like group, bed.
Yeah.
Like so filling up my time, like getting out of treatment and having that idle time was fucking dangerous as hell.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I think that's like one of the most important functions that we have as recovery coaches is like, all right, we got to fill up this idle time with something productive,
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. When I was at treatment, it was like, and I see it a lot. It's like the brain knows to a certain degree that like like when I was in wilderness, it was like my brain knew. It was like, so you could pick up a cigarette butt, dude. Like it would tease me with that, but it was like there is no other option, right? So like I was able to move past that, and then also like the structure, right? Like for mental health, especially and addiction, it's like you need structure. And you need routine and things in place. And when these kids come home or guys graduate sober living, it's like once you don't have that, if you're not willing to like set it up and hold yourself accountable to it, then things start. And your brain's now open to like the fact that you could go and get high and use. Like you said, the idle time can be like really detrimental, and that's when your brain switches. And I always tell my guys, it's like you could say you're good now and I believe you, but when your brain switches, it takes over. You'll justify everything. And so we need you busy. We need you to have things that are like important to you, that you're working towards goals. And being, a big thing for me is like fun. Like one of my life pillars is fun. Like a lot of people don't, like some people look at me, some of my friends that are normies, like, and they work 9 to 5s, they're like, they have free time at the gym at noon. And I'm like, because fun is like equal to work and equal to recovery. Like I need it, like need things I love to do, gym, slackline, because it makes me happy and I can go to those spaces and it gets me out of my head. All these things is to get me out of my head. But yeah, that's real. I didn't know that you did coaching. I thought you worked at a treatment center, Andrew, but it's epic, fighting a good fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, it
100%.
is. And I agree, completely. Like, for me too, and I stress this, like, and I didn't do this. Like, I had a recovery coach who tried to help me, but, like, getting out of treatment, I was so worried, like, that I was behind. Like I was like, man, like I gotta like as soon as I got like that bug, like to go get a job and to start like bettering my life, I almost had a mindset, like I don't know if you two ever felt like this, like I had this mindset that like having fun was like wrong. Like I can't have fun. Like I got like I need to grind, like I need to grind all the if I'm not like it's fucked up, but it's like if I'm not miserable all the time, like working my ass off, exhausted, then I'm doing something wrong because I like wasted X amount of years, having too much fun. Like now if I have fun, I'm guilty about it. And changing that mindset's been really hard. I don't know if either of you guys ever felt that way.
I don't know if for as long as I can remember, fun was like a priority to me, even as a kid. I was not a scholar. Like I would put every like the important stuff off. And so when I went through treatment, yes, I was sitting in sober living wilderness, and I was like, gosh, like by the time I was done with sober living, some of my classmates were graduating. I think you being in Utah was helpful because it's very no one was really talking about college. It was a lot of climbing and outdoorsy stuff, so it didn't really I didn't sit on it too much. But I experienced that with my clients a lot of like I feel like I'm a failure. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, Z, and I think something that I've just learned about life and through recovery, through doing this work is like it's all noise. Like it doesn't. There is no time frame. I talk about this openly. Like my family members that like studs, Ivy League colleges, massive jobs, struggling now. I have friends, studs, like everything they were supposed to do, and now they're sitting there like, I'm miserable. I don't know what I want, right? And recovery and going through that showed me who I was and what I want. So in my opinion, when I look back on it, I'm like, no, that was like less of a waste of time than if I did everything I thought I was supposed to do, because up until getting sober, it was like I was just operating on like people pleasing. I was just doing what everyone else was doing, and I didn't even like that. Like I can say now, like I'm not a college kid. It wasn't for me. I'm not an office guy. I'm not $1 million a year guy. Like I'm a fun guy. I'm a purpose guy. I'm a a man of service. Like, and I'm going at my own pace. I'm like in my own race, and I've built something that I would have never thought was possible. And so like, and it couldn't have happened without, like you said, wasting that time partying and running from myself. That was like my college. It was your college. It was like years of learning something without even realizing you were learning something to then overcome it and like now use it. And that's like the same as college, but in a more profound way, I think. So that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. Well, I think we all got sober like young. And so because we all got sober young, I think there's kind of an accelerated maturation there, at least in terms of like doing like whatever you do, the steps, whatever program you work, like getting sober and staying sober in your 20s. It's hard for everyone, but in that, I feel like I'm not going to say it's harder, but it's a different challenge because all of your immediate peers are drinking and partying, and I think I was able to find my passion faster, I think, than I would have if I didn't get sober when I got sober, and I think that like it was more clear because I wasn't fucked up all the time. I think also when you were talking about that, I was like, a program like yours, I think, would have helped me a lot because I did the 35 days inpatient. I did like 3 weeks outpatient. And then I basically had to wait 9 months before going back to school and had to like reapply and try to get back on the team, all that stuff that we've talked about before. But it was like I had to figure out what to do for 9 months because my mom moved to a different town. And I was like, wasn't really loving the 12-step program that I'm a part of now at that time. And I basically got a job at a restaurant, worked there 6 days a week. And like in the meantime, when I wasn't there, I was smoking cigarettes, playing video games, like no friends, no community. Isolation, I feel like for me has been, and even now has been like a tool and you know, kind of like the devil on my shoulder. I've like run away from, not so much in the last couple of years, I think. And that's why you've been like such a good friend to me, because I think you've even seen it. Like I will isolate. I will not communicate. And I've kind of told you like, that's kind of like a red flag for me. But I think like early in my recovery, I didn't want to have fun because I felt like I had so much to prove to people, you know, like I've even before I got sober, I had the chip on my shoulder, you know, just my circumstances with my mom and my family situation and stuff like that, and the families I was around, I always felt other. And so I think when I got sober, I felt even more other, and I also needed to prove to so many people. Like I talk to Andrew about this all the time. I feel like I stayed sober in hindsight the first like 3 years out of spite. You know, it wasn't even really for me. Obviously there was pieces that were, otherwise I wouldn't have. But there was like an unfortunate large amount of it where it was like, I'm going to show you that I can do this, you know, just because fuck you, you know. And I had like targets and like all this shit. And like I was crazy. And I went crazy when I was back at school. But I think fun has been something that I've tried to like try to like relax and not have to be so like hardcore about all my stuff. You know, like I have fun at work. I have fun in my meetings. I have like fun with my friends here, you know, way more than I ever have before. I have learned a lot of that from you, seeing like what you do, like you do what you want to do, you know what you need to do. And I've appreciated you sharing that with me. So I think that it's an important piece. Recovery doesn't have to be your life in general. It doesn't have to be this like hardcore, you know, this is how you do it thing. Like, because then you talk about people 5-10 years down the road and they're like, I'm burnt out. I don't even want to do this job, you know, and I have like 3 degrees for it. You know, it's like, if you follow what you love to do, I'm a big believer in you'll be happy. I mean, that could be the grocery store, that could be whatever. And I have a lot of comfort in that for me. Like I have a lot of comfort in knowing that, whatever happens, like as long as I'm doing what I enjoy doing, it'll work out. I think we share that sentiment.
Yeah, 100%. Like I always say, like if you figure out a way to do what you love every day and spend your whole life doing it, and you never, you know, every day you wake up and how can I do what I love today? And you spend your whole life doing it, never make a penny, but you figure out how to do that every single day, you won.
Right.
Like it's that simple. You know, you might not make $1 bajillion, but I don't think that's like so important, you know? Like I also just kind of realized like with money and like building things, it's like you don't need it as much as like the world tells you need to be like extremely happy or wealthy. Like you don't need it, you know? And it's just like there's so much stuff on social media of like I watch so much gym motivation. It's like you need to work out hard every day, all day, and it's like no, you don't. I'm sitting in the hot tub and it's noon right now, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm good.
Right.
Like things are going up and I'm good. And that simplicity, I know I always was drawn to that. Like even as a little kid, and I know you've heard me talk about like I'm gonna disappear to Costa Rica at some point. Like since I was a kid, it was like, where do you want to live when you grow up? And it was like a nice community on the beach, like in a little hut. You know, I've always been a chiller, you know. And so I just figured out a way to make that make sense in my head, and like been testing it and it works. And, you know, I still work hard, but I don't overextend myself. And I choose fun, like and I see it as just as productive as like marketing or anything, you know.
Why do you, I wanted to ask, like, why have you, why is it, if you can describe your passion for working and doing what you do, you know, like, because I think what Andrew and I do, we have more boundaries set up because I go into houses, you know. I don't, you know, I feel like I go into a facility, if you will, and I leave, you know, and sometimes it comes with me and sometimes it doesn't. But when I've talked with you, it's like you're pulling up to these cats, like actual houses, taking them places. Feels more like blurred. So how is, I guess, 2-part question, like, it just seems has that been hard for you? And like, How have you regulated those boundaries?
Yeah. It can be tricky sometimes. I mean, I do make myself as available as I can. That's like part of the program is like crisis situations. You can reach out. Parents can reach out. You know, you'll always hear from me by end of day. And there's been times, you know, because for the most part I'm doing this by myself. Been trying to poach Mitch and Andrew here for a minute, but we'll get them soon. I'm putting that on record. But it can be a lot sometimes, you know, and those are times, you know, I'm calling you, or I'm calling, you know, other people in my support system, and I'm doing therapy, and because it's heavy, you know, and sometimes oftentimes I'm like making decisions for these families that are gonna, you know, drop a lot of money on a program or, you know, send their kids somewhere, and it's like, oh my gosh, like they're gonna listen to everything I say. But I've just realized that with like the right structure, understanding that like I can rely on like my higher power in certain moments. Like I used to, like if I couldn't answer but I saw a call come in, I'd be like stressing, and it's like, no, I have to like trust in like God right now, and like that they're gonna be okay, and I can get back to them when I can. Like I can't be multiple places at once. And I've also put like some boundaries in place of like, you know, all the families know I go to bed early. So if you're really trying to get a hold of me, you have to like blow my phone up at night. But if it's not an emergency, shoot me a text. Excuse me. And then also just, you know, at one point I had 10 families. And that was like, there was one day that I think this was even before we met, where I was like, no, like, this is like,
That's a lot.
This is too much. Cause I'm working with the parents and the kids, you know, and, so that was a lot. And so now I like to stay around like 5 to 6 families max. I only see my guys twice a week, you know, and I'm much, in the beginning, I was really trying to work with everybody that came across my plate. And now it's like a little more selective, and I'm making sure that things are set up properly, so that if these kids are really not in a good place, like I'm going to get them somewhere else first. They're going to do a detox, or they're going to go do a program and then work with me, so that there's less crisis. But, you know, like what happened the other weekend with the kid who was overdosed and then ran away, those weekends are going to happen, you know. But there's a lot of good days and a lot of good moments between that, you know, that make it worth it. So
Dealing with parents, how do you deal with parents that are enabling? That's what I feel like is like one of the hardest things. I had one of my mentors asked me, he was like, I'd love for you guys to try to address something like that on it from like a parent perspective, because there's not, and you work a lot more closely obviously with parents than Andrew and I. So when you have those, not difficult parents, but parents that can't see, you know, that they potentially are hurting them by loving them too much or enabling them, letting them to continue to, you know, take advantage.
Yeah. I have to always put the client's interest above my own. And so with that, like, because the parents are paying me, but I can't be afraid of getting fired. You know, I'll tell them the hard thing, you know, and let a parent know, like it happened the other week, and I think I told you, where she let the kid go back out, and I was like, you just made a humongous mistake. And we just spent 3 hours with your kid, and you just negated all of it. It's like they need to hear the truth, because sometimes they're so caught up in it. And I do it with love, you know, but it's like I let them know, you know, and they need to know that I will speak my mind, and I'll point these things out. And whenever we start, we always go over how things are going in the house, home agreements if they're coming back from treatment, and I make sure they understand that they need to hold these boundaries. And then I'm going to call you out if you don't.
Yeah.
And I won't be afraid to tell you, like, I don't think your son should live with you guys, you know, because I'm here to advocate for your kid. He might not like that I'm saying he needs to leave the house or go to treatment, but that's my priority. And, like, mom and dad, I have to call you guys out, because I know how this works. And, like, you guys hired me because you needed a professional on this. And so I'm going to speak my mind. And that was one of the hardest things in the beginning, because I see it in almost every case. You know, and then I got more comfortable with it, and I've built a ton of resources out. And so sometimes it might just be as simple as like, hey, I'm bringing on this family coach, you know, a parent coach who's going to trust me with you guys to do their own separate thing, or mom, I think you need to do some therapy. Like I was told that to parents too, of like, I think you need to take care of yourself, prioritize you a little bit.
Yeah.
Your kid's okay. Yeah, his grades are, C's.
Yeah.
But he's sober. He's got his passion. It's all right. And never got fired yet for doing that.
Yeah.
Definitely some uncomfortable, difficult conversations, but it's like that's part of the job. And like, when I'm going into those conversations, it's just like you just move through the discomfort and you just got to say it, And like, I'm not attacking you. Like, I'm always like, I know this is like out of love, right? That's like this. Parents always, for the most part, are doing these things out of love,
Right.
And so it's like I see that. But let me show you what happened to me when my mom did that, and then the love she gave me that saved my life was her being like, "Get out."
Yeah.
Like, let me know when you're ready for some help. And so I pull from my story and just like have the conversation, and some parents don't want to hear it, fine. But one day you'll realize, that was the right thing.
And we were just talking last week about the homie Zach came on. He was super, super dope dude. But one of the things that Andrew, he and I were talking about was that our family members or friends at a certain point cut us off. Like enough was enough. They're like, I'm good off you. When it comes to friends, my mom drew the line. My grandma drew the line. Like we're not going to be available to you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was when. And then, my college and coach drew the line. And for me, that was what did push me there, So I feel like that has to be a really hard conversation to have with, like, telling a client's parents, you have to draw the line for them or trying to set that up for them. It's just, I dabbled in that a little bit, like 2 years ago. I like opened myself up to like, if you need help, text me. And then this one family like reached out and I like met with their mom and dad I met with the dad and daughter about their mom who was struggling with drinking. And halfway through the conversation, I was like, I don't think I'm good at this. Like the dad was just he was not going to kick her out. He was like, I'll always love her. I'll always take care of her. Doesn't matter what she does. I'll always, get drinks for her and all this stuff. I can't kick her out. And she was like actively dying.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what to say. I shared my story. I did all this stuff to try to express that, like, you're enabling and hurting her, but it's not my life. It's not my wife. It wasn't my situation.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me.
Definitely. And I think like they're not always going to hear it, but sometimes like in a situation like that, I'd be like, look, your wife's sick and you're like digging into the wound. Like you're making it worse. And like, go ahead and do that, dude. Like, I can't stop you, but like, just know that this has been said to you.
Yeah.
And again, when you're ready, hit me up.
Right.
You're not ready.
Right.
It's hard. I work with parents too. In my, in my job with my guys, I got 4 guys right now. When you said 10, I was like, holy shit. Like I got 4 guys and I'm on the phone like for hours every day. Like, so I can't imagine having 10. First of all, that's insane that you did that to yourself. And some of the hardest things that I encounter with parents too is like, number one, I have complete imposter syndrome. So like again, it's amazing for me to sit here because like you two give me hope because I'm a little in the way that Mitch and I like to compete. I'm a little behind in my journey. Like, I got sober 2.5 years ago. You guys have both been sober, over 5 years. Like, and it's not the length of sobriety that matters, but it's the work that we do. Obviously, you guys have been doing the work longer than I have. So when I hear some of the insight that you guys like about having fun and like finding passion and all that stuff. Like, it gives me hope. So first of all, thank you to both of you. But I struggle big with that imposter syndrome. Like when I'm talking, especially when I'm talking to parents, like, cause I could talk with like my guys about my experience, and then they'll nod their head and like we identify with each other, and like I'm cool with that, and it feels good. But then with like full ass adults, like 50, 60 years old, and they have their own experiences, like I'll often forget that like I'm the dude that they're paying. Like that I'm the like the professional that they brought in. And it'll be hard for me to find that voice of like, no, like you need to listen to me, like you need to set up a boundary with your kid or he might relapse. Like finding that kind of like authoritative voice it can be hard. Like and then like something that we kind of talked about last episode that is again hard for me is, I get attached to these guys. Like I become friends with them. Like and that can be dangerous for me. Like because I can't attach myself to the outcome. Like this person may or may not get sober or may not like get it. And I can do everything I can, like in my power, everything. And they still might just not be ready, or they might make certain decisions and, whatever. Or they might like pass away. Like that's happened too. Like, and that it becomes really personal for me. And I got to remember, like, it's hard to remember like that. We're fighting a disease. Like, it's not like these people are just, I failed them. We're working against the odds. Like Mitch talks about statistics all the time with like this disease. Like we're fucking against the odds here, big time. And I forget that. Like, if one of my guys goes out or something like that, and the relationship ends, and the parents whatever, and it's hard for me not to like attach myself to that. I don't know if you ever go through anything like that.
100%. I do. And when things go south, I often call my mom every time. She says basically the same thing. She was like, go find me a cancer doctor that hasn't lost a patient. Mm-hmm. She was like, find me that guy, and then we can talk about how you could possibly potentially be perfect at what you do. It's like, it doesn't exist. It's not possible, and like, as long as I do my best, it's easier to accept the outcome, even if it's not what we want. Sometimes I have parents also like, well, why did he relapse? It's like, not a treatment center, first of all. Like, I see a kid twice a week for 2 hours, right? This is like, I can't possibly see him enough to keep him sober. He has to make these decisions, but it's like, I just remind myself, like, as long as I do my best, like, and we can't, and use and pull on resources and be willing to like say, hey, he needs more support, right? Like, again, I put the client above my own needs, right? Like, when I'm talking to guys, I think we're going to send you treatment. They're like, oh, F you, why would you do that? And it's like, dude, if it was Trey's world, I'm keeping the client and the paycheck. Mm-hmm. But that's not what this is about, And so whenever I feel like, or I'll bring therapists in, I'll build teams around families if they need it, because there is stuff I can't provide. I can't be with them 24/7. I can't, I'm not a therapist, so I can't go back as far as a kid might need to get to the underlying stuff. And so I rely on a team. Like, I'm aware of my like abilities and like what I can provide. And then I have to, like, as much as I love my clients, like, detach to some degree, like law of detachment. Like, I can't be, it's not a reflection of me. Just like the doctor who might lose a kid, it happens all the time in the cancer rooms. It's like, all you can do is your best. And unfortunately, not everyone's going to get it. Like I have cases where either we got to send the kid back to treatment. In an ideal world, I help them sustain his sobriety and he never has to go back. But sometimes kid needs more, you know. I would have needed more if I was doing this as a teen. You know, we're trying to work with this person, but sometimes the disease is just more powerful, and then we refer out, you know. And like, I'm grateful that I have so many colleagues now and programs and places that I work with where I can like get a bed within an hour, you know, or get a transport within an hour. So it's just, yeah, it's just doing my best, dude. Like it's not personal, you know. An addict, their decisions is not a reflection of us, right? It's like, it's just business to an addict. When they decide they want to use, they're going to use. It doesn't matter who's in their way, right? Family, certainly a mentor or coach. It's not a reflection of the people that love them. It's a reflection of them being sick, you know. So, but it is tough, dude. I was working in treatment and the group home, especially, that like in the beginning, I would stay like way past my shift end talking to guys. I wouldn't be able to sleep because I would just be like, you know, the group home had, some of those kids had some horrific stories and backgrounds, you know. It was hard not to want to do everything, but, you know, we have to take care of ourselves and we have to like have our own boundaries to protect us and keep us sane and safe, you know.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest learning curves and challenges for me, I think, in the last 9 months working in recovery. Also, I feel like weirdly, the more that I've gotten ingrained in multiple meetings, and in the last 2 months, I've had like 6 or 7 either like friends or people in my life relapse, some with like prolonged recovery. And like 2 in the last week, you know, and it just like, I never want to be in a place where I'm numbed out and I'm like, sorry, good luck, you know. I also never want to be, I also can't carry that, you know.
What do you mean numbed out? All right, good luck.
I think like my home group specifically, when I first joined going there like 3 years ago, I saw some of the like OGs with like 30, 35, whatever. And like one of the guys, I didn't even know him, but he relapsed. He had apparently been coming for a couple months in a row, and he relapsed and died. And I went to the meeting after that, and one of the guys was like, "Can't help them all. Like his seat will be open for the next one." And I was like, "That's the coldest shit I've ever heard."
Yeah.
You know, like there's no heart there at all. And I remember being like, I never want to be like that. And as time has progressed, I still don't want to be like that, but I understand, you know, because this guy has 35 years. How many people do you think he's seen and worked with that have died? You know? So it's like we have to, like you do, like we have to balance. We're all human too. And it's like my passion is working with others. So I'm going to care about them, you know? It has helped to think of it as work. It has helped to be like it's their decision. It has helped, you know, there's these little things that help, but it's always going to affect me, I think. And I always need to watch it, because if it like hyper affects me, I need to check that, because that feels like, you might have been unhealthily attached to that person or their story or their whatever, you know? And I don't think it's all bad, but like, dude, this one a couple of days ago that I talked to you about a little bit, it was just gnarly, dude. Like someone I've worked with 6 months, and I had to like go into his house and like break him out of there. Like that feels like I might have probably was too close. But I don't know. It's like, that's what we signed up for in the same light. But it is kind of like the gnarly side of recovery is relapse, right? And I've thought about this too. It's like, especially when every time I come up towards my sobriety date, last year was beautiful. We talked about it. I talked about it with Andrew. And I feel great this year too, you know, but it does bring up what was going on around this time 7 years ago, you know? And relapse I've never relapsed to this point. And it's just kind of wild that like if I was to do that, or you know, like how I don't know why my mind goes to like how that would invalidate everything that I've done, you know. And I'm not thinking about relapsing or anything like that, but it's so interesting how the outside perspective, people outside of the rooms and even inside of the rooms, view a relapse and view like the validation or credit that goes with someone with prolonged recovery. You know, Andrew's talking right now about like, oh, you guys have, you know, dude, bro, I've learned probably more from you than I would say you've learned from me. You know, you say that you're behind.
Cap.
You were a key piece in lighting my recovery on fire a year ago. Truly. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I'm just going on a spiel because the relapse shit has been on my mind a lot, just being around it and seeing it. Yeah. It's gnarly. Like it's like people dying and shit is like,
Yeah.
it's kind of the opposite of saying like, oh, I have a lot of fun. Like I have a lot of fun too, but like, it's just so hard for me when I look at people and they don't take it seriously sometimes, and then they die. It's
Yeah.
like, damn, bro. Like, I wasn't fucking joking when I said that you
Yeah,
could.
I was trying to tell you.
Right.
Yeah, relapse and lapsing is tough, man. I see it with my guys. You know, I always talk to parents about like the difference between a lapse and a relapse. You know, if they slip up one time and they can get back on track, I checked it off as a lapse versus like fully back in it, relapse. With the teens, lapsing and relapsing is almost like guaranteed. They're going back home after like a 30-day. I'm like with every home, I'm like, mom and dad, like I pray to God it doesn't, but it probably will. So let's just like get you, wrap your head around that, and we'll know what to do if it does. But yeah, it's hard. Dude. Losing people is hard. Like so many people outside of recovery don't understand how serious this stuff is. Like when I see people out or like the kids, you know, I went to take a kid to treatment the other day, and like he runs out the house and his homie's waiting in the car, and he dives into the car and they're gone. And it's like, I'm the most non-violent person, but I wanted to catch that other homie because he doesn't understand. It's like, do you understand what you're doing, dude? It's not a joke. Like your boy is gonna kill himself. But people just don't know, you know. That's why I like talking at the schools and doing that stuff, just really trying to get real with the younger generation of like, you need to know, like, this is real. It gets you. It'll get you quick, whether you think you could be an addict or not. Like, it can get you, you know. So,
Yeah.
I wanted to know to switch gears a little bit, if that's all right with you guys. I want to know for you, Trey, like, and we've talked about this a little bit before. You know, what does the future hold? Like, you have this business. It's seemingly like thriving. It's doing well. It's good work. You're passionate about it. What is your vision? What, you know, keep doing this, sober house. You talk about like, you know, while you've talked about some of your guys, you talk about having a team like and resources around you. Like, do you ever think about, you know, pulling those things together, like therapists, you know, other coaching, other mentoring resources, and having like a real kind of comprehensive like house or something like that? What does that look like for you?
yeah, I'm in the process of raising funds for a sober living house. That would be, you know, I dream of having a bunch of them. You know, I want to do the sober living, and then I want to do the therapeutic boarding school for teens, because I think that space, especially out here for teens, most of the therapeutic schools that I'll, you know, send guys to or refer guys to is like Utah East, where there's nothing really out here. So there's a lot of, and there's a lot of great ones, but I have a vision to do one out here, where, you know, we partner with a school like Fusion Global or you know, some type of online school. We bring a teacher in to work with them. They do school, and then it's just like structured activities, you know, groups going surfing, gym, outings, you know, groups at the house. They all do their therapy. and small, you know, like 10 to 12 boys. Therapeutics. So it's kind of like creating sober living for teens here, but we got to have the school. We obviously have to have the recovery piece, and so that's one vision that I think will come after I open my first sober living. But the one that I'm presenting right now to investors is like a adventure kind of athletic minded sober living home where we're a middle ground between super structured sober livings and like your kind of traditional sober living of you have curfew, you have drug tests, get a sponsor and go to meetings. It's the middle ground. So I'm you know, sponsor meetings, you know, I'm open to all programs and ways to build a recovery program. And so part of it will be, you know, working with a recovery coach to design and create your recovery plan, working with the life. So each guy will work with a recovery coach, a life coach, and then if we need it, a financial coach, right? So you're kind of addressing all areas of your life and figuring out the purpose and passions and things like that you actually want to pursue for a career, maybe going back to school, like really dial it in, right? Like, can we help you see the end game? If you're gonna go back to school, okay, can we actually help you see what you're working towards so that it's more meaningful to get through those tougher days? Or career, what do you want to start? Let's rally behind you and start this business, whatever it might be. But that's a part of the program. Recovery is part of the program, and then adventure and like, you know, I think you live similar, like the running, doing things that suck. You know, like I ice bath, I go to the gym every day. You know, like I love to do stuff that sucks. I love the camaraderie. I love talking shit. Like all Mitch know, like if you were here, you'd see it. Like that energy is special. It's not for everyone, but that's kind of like the vibe I'm trying to set. And like the way that helped me recover, I want to get guys that are similar to me, show them how to do that. You know, in a young men's home. So that's like 18 to 28, and then yeah, also doing a retreat at the end of the year for kind of more failure to launch guys. Maybe they went through treatment, maybe not, but now they're kind of stuck. So we're doing a 1 week retreat in Nevada that'll just be adventure packed, some breath work. I would have brought you on. I didn't know you were doing that. But we'll do breath work, we'll do yoga, we'll do hiking, snowmobiling, skiing, nice house, and then they do 7 weeks of coaching in a group coaching program after that to kind of help create sustainability, but it's really geared to like get you out of that comfort routine. You know, these guys that are just kind of isolating, stuck at home, not doing much. I don't know what I want to do. It's like, boom, before we even like talk about that, like we're taking you out. You're about to do a week of like epic, remind you of like what life can be like, and also do some work and like reset things up, transition you back out. So that's coming too. But yeah, we're just trucking along, trying to expand the reach and help more people, and you know, do whatever we can.
It's amazing, man. It's the athletic piece for me is one of the most important, and I'm jealous I haven't been able to get out there and go to the gym with you guys. I see you guys posting videos and in the gym and putting numbers up. I'd love to give you guys a run for your money, because I've been known to shit talk a little bit too from time to time.
Well, I think I said it last time, and I'll put it on air again. I'll buy you a ticket. You let me know, and you come visit. That's
right.
on me. You just have
That's
to
right.
give me the word, dude. He said
Right.
that last time. We'll
Yeah.
take you up on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
Yeah. I would love to have you out, Andrew. I know. I stopped harassing him as much with it because that would make me not want to come.
Well, I'll start harassing you, dude.
Okay, yeah, we'll switch. We'll switch. But thank you for coming on today, talking with us. It's been dope to get into a little bit more recovery stuff, like the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
I feel like those conversations, for me, are always like, I feel a lot better now than I did this morning. You know, just being able to chop it up and hear from you, and just, you know, a couple addicts and alcoholics talking. You know, I feel like that's always positive. And I've said it to you before. I say it to you all the time. You say it to me, but I appreciate, you know, what you do, going out there, really on the ground level, helping others. You made a profound impact on me, and I'm sure you made a profound impact on others. So
I appreciate that.
you.
Back at both of you guys. I mean, I love this, dude. I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's dope. I think it's helpful. I think it's powerful. So anything I could ever do, you know, I'm grateful you guys brought me on again.
Yeah.
Helps me too. I do a lot of listening in my days, so it's nice to be able to talk a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this is awesome. The world needs it. You know, you guys are reaching people that really need to absorb this stuff. You know, parents, families, anybody. Like, you don't know the impact one line could have, or a TikTok, or a YouTube video, podcast stream. Like, you probably have impacted more than you've even realized. And that's like, there's nothing more special than that, you know?
We appreciate that.
Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This has been episode 59. Thank you, Nova, for helping us today, as always, the best. And Trey, Andrew, thanks, guys. We will keep coming back. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Peace and love worldwide.
That's right.
Much love.